Our guest today is Dave Munro, the lead singer of Air Traffic Controller, and they have created a place all their own in the indie pop world. Now, over the past decade, Dave created timeless and classic indie folk pop music that is heartfelt and authentic. Now, from the Boston scene, the band released 4 critically applauded albums and toured steadily with an electrifying group now made up of Dave Munro, drummer Adam Salameh, bassist Joe Campbell, and guitarist Bobby Borenstein, and also vocalist Emi McSwain and multi-instrumentalist Steve Scott. Now, with over 420,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, they have a very strong fan base that continues to grow, and I'm one of them. So let's welcome lead singer Dave Munro of Air Traffic Controller to the show. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me, Ward. This is cool.
Man, the first time I've heard, I believe it was the first song that I heard of y'all's was Sometimes, and the moment I heard it, I was a fan. You know, it's kind of like Nick Rhodes of Duran Duran. He would say it takes him 30 seconds to figure out if he likes a song or not. And it took me less than 30 to know that I'm a big fan of Air Traffic Controller.
That's cool. Must have got you with the first line, I guess.
Well, how did the creation of Air Traffic Controller's sound come to be?
The sound itself, I should credit the producer of most of the albums. His name's Blue. He was mostly hearing acoustic demos by me, and him being more of a rocker, electronic producer. Not He does a lot of different stuff, but sort of coming from a power pop world, but also a big pop world where he produced acts like Selena Gomez, Jonas Brothers. He, he he tried to take what I did acoustically and make it into something very accessible, and I credit him for that because it was also something very unique to mix uh, an organic sound with an electronic sound, and that's we've been running with that ever since.
Yeah, it's so eclectic, the sound of Air Traffic Controller. And to me, there's this perfect rhythm of beats and melodies that just flow together with what I kind of call a synergy of coolness.
Thank you. No one's ever called it that before, but I like it.
Could be the title of a new song. What do you think?
Synergy of coolness. Yes, sure. Maybe
Well,
an album title.
it would be a great album title, and you can use
Yeah.
it. It's yours. It's yours. Air Traffic Controller. I mean, you recently went on tour for the first time in nearly 4 years. What did you miss the most about being out there?
Just seeing the country, I guess, was the best part. But I'm more so, I guess, meeting people who are listening. Having that conversation with them, just like I did with you about a specific song that struck them. Just when you get really far out into the country and have that conversation with somebody, and know that you've reached someone far away, which isn't that hard to do with the internet these days. But I mean, it just means a lot more than playing a gig 30 minutes away and hearing that. It's so I feel like making that connection with far away Americans was really fun for me.
So is it just great to be back touring and talking with your fans face to face?
Yeah. And there were there's some players in the band that are new, and they hadn't toured ever. And so so taking them along too was just it was an honor really to take them on a trip like that. It was a lot of fun for us veterans.
Well, I guess for the ones that have never toured before, it's probably very energizing.
Mhm.
It probably seems like a bit of a working vacation for them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's another life that um, you just uh, you can't really describe it until you do it, and it's not all that glamorous to be honest, but it is fun. Every day is fun.
Yeah, I've talked to so many artists who have, started out in a crowded van and
Hmm.
their shower consisted of baby wipes.
Oh, we didn't resort to that. I think we would just not shower.
Well, if someone has never heard of air traffic controller, how would
Mhm.
you describe your music to them in words?
I try to tell people that we're very likable. I feel like words like electronic or rock even, um, or pop, will deter people because they just immediately think, well, that's not what I'm into, uh, whatever it may be. And then so I just start with likable. I think that our music's very likable, um, accessible, all ages, and that seems to get people to check it out at least. But as far as describing it to, what our sound is specifically, I say that it's indie pop, and that it's a mix of organic and electronic.
Yeah, and that's a perfect definition of your music. Again, like I said, I literally fell in love with your music. I even had to go back to listen to all the albums before the album Dash,
Mm.
and they're absolutely amazing. And then for you, who are your musical influences?
I'm really big Beatles fan through and through. Tom Petty, Paul Simon. Um, those are the top tier ones. But there's a lot of unknowns that have inspired me too. That worth googling. Damien Jurado, Jason Faulkner, a band called Jellyfish, um, Mason Jennings, bunch.
Well, I mean, when I
Fleetwood,
listen to your
Fleetwood
yeah,
Mac is another big one. A lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s.
yeah, and that's to me, even though I'm a big fan of the 70s, the 80s and 90s, there is just so many songs out
Hmm.
there. And, that's when the pop world to me truly exploded. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it was, because the 70s, we kind of call it more of the rock era. 80s and 90s ended up being where there was more pop. And
yeah,
today, I think the definition of pop is not as great as it used to be. Um,
right.
but I love the fact with your music, I think indie pop is a perfect example, but you said it. It's likable. Every song is likable. And I want to talk a bit about your current album, Dash. What was the inspiration behind it?
It wasn't. Mm, it wasn't so much the inspiration behind the album. I'm outside. There's some bug on my foot.
All good.
Um, but it was kind of song to song, where there were just things going on in life that, so it's inspired by everyday life. I feel like all these songs, as specific as some of them may be, they're very relatable, and that's another thing I try to get across, to people who want to know what we're about. It's really, I hope people don't listen to and just think, these are Dave's adventures or whatever. I really want people to hear our music and think about their own lives. Um, and the title Dash came from, I was actually at a funeral during COVID, and the eulogy was they used they talked about the dash between the day you're born and the day you die on a tombstone. And it's not a new concept, but it was new to me. But what they were trying to say was that the person who passed on, that that tiny little dash is like a timeline of their life, and everything that they experienced was all part of this timeline, this dash, between those dates. And it was just kind of profound to me. And I went back to the studio and told the band about it. And I said, what if we just call the album Dash, and on the cover we'll just put a dash. And that's what you see there is actually we thought about putting like a tombstone on there, that seemed kind of dark, so we put um, and most people don't even know what it is, but it's actually a street dash on the album cover.
See, I
Um,
figured that out pretty quick that it was a
yeah,
street dash.
a lot of
And
people think we're looking at outer space because there's speckles all over it, but it's really just a speckled road.
well, and I had to when I've listened to the whole album multiple times, and you have this 54 seconds, and I get and there's just a dash. You don't even put the word to name the song. You have this dash. So what's that 54 seconds all about?
Well, we wanted a break between. It's hard to apply a hidden track these days because people don't not everyone has the vinyl on or the tape. Even a CD, you could put a lot of hidden tracks and things, and we have that on most of our records. But so I thought the idea of putting a track that's just a break of some kind of noise, and we talked about what that could be, and we really liked the noise of the tape machine we were recording on. When you rewind it, it goes super fast, and you're really just hearing what you recorded in reverse, but at like ultra fast speed. So you're actually hearing in that 54 seconds the entire album high speed in reverse, and then that's the track, and then we have our hidden track, which is just an acoustic, a live acoustic song.
See, you pulled a Beatles stunt with Dash.
The backwards
Exactly. So, and in 54 seconds, that is the whole album at high speed.
in reverse. Yep.
That is this. See, like I said, it's the synergy of coolness is what this album is about. And Dave, some of my favorite songs on this album, of course, I think everybody in the world loves the song sometimes. It's just it's just pure fun. The beat, the melodies, it's a hit. I mean, the moment you hear it, you know it's a hit.
Thank you.
And
You
I do love the second track. Anybody got a light? So where did that
Mhm.
song come from?
I wrote that during COVID, and I think a lot of bands were
Can you hear me?
because of COVID. We were like 75% done, and they closed the doors to the studio and said maybe we can finish this remotely, and we tried to do that for months, um, and we're just chipping away track by track and critique on every little move that was made remotely by all of our players. One of our lead guitarists ended up leaving the group, um, and it was just a bummer. What was a very exciting time became just such a downer that we didn't know anymore when the record was going to come out. Um, we hadn't titled it yet, but sometimes was actually a track that was the closest to being done. So we were able to finish the song sometimes uh, in my garage. Actually, I set up a nice microphone in there. My bandmate Steve came over in his Prius in the driveway. This was like the height of COVID when everybody was just paranoid, for good reason. And so we made a booth of like blankets in my garage and ran the cable outside into his car, and he was on a laptop mixing my vocals onto this track, and that was actually fun. That was fun, creative during COVID, but we couldn't do the whole record that way. So everybody was everywhere. So um, just anybody got a light. That song just came out of the frustration of I tried to. I didn't write it about making an album. I wrote it about what everybody was going through. Everybody's plans just went to crap. Anybody who was just trying to make life work or have a career or run a restaurant or anything. raise a family and see the world. All those things you just couldn't do anymore, and it was just so the song just came from that frustration and anybody got a light,
Well,
kind of like
well,
smoke them if you got them, but also like sh- shine some light on this darkness. That's where the title came from.
and I picked that up from listening to the song, and there's another one that I absolutely love on this album. That's Jimmy's song.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're asking about that one. That one I wrote about my father-in-law. That's the most specific song I've ever written. But he is just a wonderful, persistent man, Vietnam veteran who's been asking me almost since I met him, when you gonna write a song about me? And I've heard his war stories. He actually crashed in not one but two aircraft in Vietnam and walked away from both. Actually, he swam away from one, and I wrote about that one. And went on to live a fruitful life. Raised his family on a cul-de-sac, and everything worked out. That's another song, but
I love
but
that song.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, Jimmy's song it's basically a song about not giving up. Because he was underwater, belted into that plane that crashed and sunk, and had pretty much given up. He said, "I can't get out of this belt," and then somehow he just managed to wiggle out of it. I think it was like another strap that he thought was the seatbelt, because I think he was sleeping when the plane was going down, and it was kind of a rude awakening. But he climbed out of there and swam away, covered in oil, and and was spared. I don't know if anyone died uh, on that plane, but um, to think you're gonna go then and accept it and somehow get out of it. I felt like that was something worth writing about. Um,
I would say so, and it's probably one of my favorite songs on the whole Dash album. But you have the very last song on this record, "Kissed You in the Morning." As I was listening to it, it has a very raw, very organic sound. How did that come about?
well, I had a demo of that song that sounded almost exactly like that, and just me and an acoustic, and um, it's been on file for years. That was a song I written about an old relationship, and pretty fresh out of that relationship, I recorded it, and um, I was playing old demos for the band, and everybody just demanded that we do it, and not because they wanted to play it, because nobody got to play on that one, but they said you have to do it just like this, which I was glad to do because the demo had some issues with me, like some of the lyrics weren't quite right, and it could have sounded better, and there were mistakes and things. Um, so we just set out to recreate it, and there was just one microphone, me, and a guitar, and actually some of the sound that you hear in that Dash track right before it is the the band setting up a microphone in front of an amplifier, and we took what I recorded acoustically, um, mic'd mic'd up an old amplifier, a really old, like, I forget, 60s amplifier, and played the song through the amp into that mic, and that makes it sound very raw. That's how we got that sound, and you can even hear people walking around the room during it, and at the end, the footsteps and everything. So it was fun to recreate something like that.
What I love about that story is it reminds me of the way artists used to actually record their songs.
Hmm.
In a very organic, in a very real way. Sometimes, even if there was a tiny mistake in the production of the song, that mistake became iconic. and
Yeah.
it became part of a song that we would remember forever. And
Hmm.
today we live in a world of Pro Tools and creating things, and there's no humans sometimes in the production of an album. But I love the fact that with that song and the rest of the album, it's probably one of the most real raw albums that I've heard in years.
Thank you. Wow. It's exciting when, I mean, even on tour, hearing people talk about the new stuff, it means even more to me, than longtime fans, just because, they discovered us at this time where we're putting out, um, these songs, these very personal songs, and just the fact that I'm still going and wondering if I should be, and then hearing people, say nice things about the new record, it really means a lot to me and keeps me going.
Dave, when I listen to things like Sometimes or Anyone Got a Light, even
Mhm.
Jimmy's song, I always wonder, because these songs are so great, they should be covering radio. I mean, they should be blanketing the nation as being monster hits. It was funny because even last night we were sitting around the table talking about certain songs back in the day that when you first heard them, you knew instantly it was a hit. It's not like some songs that hit the radio now and you're like, why did they release that? But but you hear songs like Sometimes or Anyone's Got a Light, and you're like, the moment you hear it, it's for me, because it was kind of like, back in, like we were talking about the 80s and the 90s. The moment you heard a song getting released, you're like, wow,
Mhm.
that's incredible. And then it just sets the whole nation on fire. That's what your songs are like to me. When I hear them, they they're monster hits, and the rest of the nation should know that.
Thank you. Do you work in radio promotion at all?
No, but you know what? I think a lot of artists need to go back, like in the old days, and print the 45s and literally just hand deliver them to every radio station. That's just the way it should be.
Can they play 45s there, you think?
I don't know, but I just like the old way of promotion on, when you get the artist, stack of records in the car, going
Mhm.
from one station to the next, and basically hoping that you're going to have a Dewey Phillips in Memphis and have Sam Phillips walk in with a record, and then somebody's life completely changes overnight. We need to have more of those. We need to have more of that happening now.
Okay. We do have vinyl printing right now, but I need to stop the press and make 45s.
Hey, I think with Dash, they need to listen to the whole album. But I do want to ask you this, because after the release of Dash, you welcomed vocalist Emi McSwain, but there's
Mhm.
no female vocals on Dash. How did Emi end up joining the band?
We have a lot of, um, in those older records, we had a female, Casey Sullivan, who's a major part of the group for 3 records. Um, you know, and she left the band after our last release called Echo Papa. She moved to California, um, joined another band, and just kind of never came back. And well, she actually ended up coming back to Boston, but but we haven't made music since. She's kind of moved on, and I'm very happy for what she's up to now, and we really needed those songs to continue to be heard live, and so I was looking for someone to that could play really well, an instrument, keys would have been ideal, and that's what we found. But you know, the hunt for like um, the right female, um, I couldn't have scored better than finding Emi McSwain. She she sings these songs and just breathes new life into them, and she's so fun to be around. If you follow us on any of the socials, ATC music, she's the life of the party, man. She really is hysterical. But she's also extremely talented. Her voice is something. It's she's not recreating what Casey did. She's really um, taking things uh, on her own on in her own way and really making it special for the audience. And they applaud the second she starts singing. They're already applauding, like, ah, we didn't know she was going to sing, and then she's great. I love this band that I'm in right now, and that we're able to do to keep the show on the road. So Emmy plays guitar, so she's able to move around the stage and play a keyboard basically. And the sounds that come out of that thing are incredible, and the fact that she's able to put on the show while she's playing is so much better too than standing there and trying to do it.
And see, that was one of the major instruments of the 1980s.
Yeah, it all. Yeah. So I didn't mind seeing the look of that either. I just think that's
Well, are y'all already working on the next album and then having her sing on it as well?
yeah. We've done yeah. Her voice is featured already on a bunch of new stuff. So
Well, you served in the U.S. Navy as a air traffic controller,
yeah,
and you wrote your first songs while pursuing a career in aviation. How do you
mhm.
think that your time in the Navy has affected your music career?
It made a songwriter out of me. Really, I was a huge fan of music, but I hadn't written anything until I was away and isolated and just depressed. um, I had a great group of friends. The song 20 on the record is about me, moving out of the barracks and into an apartment, and that was a really good time. But what I didn't write about was the time I spent alone in my room recording music, and and just starting to become this. Um, it was a very exciting time. I'd say it affected me by, making it gave me an adventure to write about, and it gave me, you know, a, a, a time to reflect on, what I had, what I wanted, um, and who I was. So I owe a lot of that to my service.
Do you still follow aviation?
I I keep in touch with those friends, and I perk up whenever I see or read anything about air traffic control. It was a fun thing to do. I was a kid playing video games, and then became like an adult, sort of doing the same thing. Watching blips on a screen and keeping them separated.
Well, as I was doing some research on your band, I saw that some of your music has been licensed by Bose and MTV and NBC, ABC, Disney, even Verizon and Toyota, and so many others. How did your music become wanted by these mega corporations, or their marketing firms, I should say?
All different ways. The Bose company is located in Massachusetts. I don't know if it still is, but they had a corporate office here, and somebody knew somebody and heard, um, I think, our song "You Know Me," which is one of the old duets, and that was really exciting. We got to go to New York and film this live video in a warehouse, that wound up being on TVs all over the world, in Walmart, Target, or anything like that, at department stores like around the world. And people would walk by these displays and discover us. And that was just an incredible opportunity. And they heard us out of these great speakers. um, so that one was word of mouth. A lot of the other ones, I honestly don't know how they stumble on us. We don't currently have a publisher, or even a sync licensing sync company attached to us right now, or a record label. Uh, we're very independent, so Uh,
Well, I've got to hand it to you because, and of course, we all know that there's so many recording artists out there that are independents. And as I always say on my show, and ladies and gentlemen, you know I sound like a broken record sometimes. Stop downloading the music for free. You buy it. You buy the album, buy the
mhm.
CD, the vinyl, buy the merch, and buy the concert ticket. That's how we keep this music coming back to us. And Air Traffic Controller is a band that you need to add to your list. But Dave, and I mean this as a compliment to you and all of the rest of your crew over there. You have this, there's a commercial sound to it, but I mean it in a good way.
Mhm.
And for corporations to pick up those songs and to actually gain a fan base from that, that's just miraculous.
Yeah, we're grateful for the exposure. That's really my main goal is just for it to be heard. Um, so that definitely helped. You know, as far as people downloading it for free, it's just become, I don't know. I think it's a lot of that's been sort of phased out by Spotify and all these other ways. People still listen to music for free, but a lot of that they have to listen to commercials now. So, um, and then Spotify and Apple, like they got everybody paying for it at least. So we're even grateful for that and getting on playlists and things. Um, we're finally um, every day we have more exposure than we did the day before, which is great. We haven't gone backwards at all. Um, and I think that for I have to thank the fans for that, for continuing to share what they heard, and probably the algorithms that are picking us up and sharing us with people who like things that sound like us.
Yeah, I think we have to thank the algorithm sometimes for doing its job correctly and spreading the word around. And for you, what's the one lesson that you have learned as a musician that you may not have learned otherwise?
Um, well, as a musician, a lesson I learned would be practice makes perfect, but passion is more important than any skill you can pick up. If people believe in what you're saying, um, they'll love your song. So I'm lucky enough. I'm a okay musician. I can play some chords and have musical ideas, melodies, um, but I've surrounded myself with such a talented group, especially on this latest record. I mean, it was really produced by the band and the producer. Everybody in the room was so passionate about making it the very best it could be, and having that amount of skill in one room, it's beyond what I can do. So I really have a lot of love for them as musicians and as people.
Well, it does take a village, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
Well, what can the fans expect for the remainder of the year?
Well, we've got some of our most important shows ahead. Um, this one doesn't sound important because it's at the beach, but we have two at the beach actually. There's one called the Beachcomber on Cape Cod, which we do every year. Knock on wood. We've gotten this gig. It's a very hard gig to book, but it's we've gotten it every year somehow, except for we lost a year during COVID. But uh, we basically go down to Cape Cod, spend the day at the beach, and then play in this club called the Beachcomber, and then go back out to the beach at night and have a bonfire under the stars. It's just incredible. But then we have another show for a radio station. It's called Riverfest. The radio station's called 92.5 The River. That's a very respected station around here. There aren't a lot of like uh, indie rock stations. I don't know what the rest of the country is offering, but around here we've only got a couple, and there's one is sponsoring the Riverfest show, and the other is sponsoring our show at the Sinclair in Boston, which we're is that other radio station is called WERS, and they're one of the biggest college stations in the country, and they really helped put us on the map. These couple stations are like tastemaker stations, and I think that that helped us hit the college market nationwide, really, because they're very well respected stations. But the show at the Sinclair, we're treating it basically like an album release show, even though the album's been out a while. We haven't played a show like this since Dash came out, so we're treating it that way, and we want our fans to know that this is the one you got to see, because we're headlining. We've got another band called Little Fuss, another band called Sweetie that are on the bill. It's just going to be a spectacular night. But also, we just did that tour, and this is the first show in town since the tour, so it's also our homecoming. We have lots of names for it. Last show of the summer. So, and the rest of the year, we're gonna probably take whatever comes at us. Another thing we don't have is a booking agent. We booked that last tour by ourselves, which was very challenging to, contact venues and try to set up a route that makes sense. And coming out of COVID, where your numbers really don't mean a lot to them anymore. This is the crowd you drew 3 years ago, but what are you going to do now? We couldn't promise anything, so we booked our own tour. We plan on doing another tour soon, maybe in the fall, late fall, and or winter. We're looking into the next tour already. So, and recording
Wow.
and
Well,
recording the next record. So we'll be busy for the rest of the year for sure.
Well, hopefully you find the right booking agent because, ladies and gentlemen, you need to add air traffic controller to your playlist. You need to add it to your vinyl and your CD collection, and not just the album Dash. You need to get the previous albums as well. This band is absolutely fantastic. They're incredible. And like I said, the moment you hear the first song, you're like, where have these guys been all this time? And girl, I should say, because Emi's now part of the band. And Dave, where can people find Air Traffic Controller online?
At all the socials, we're under ATC Music, and our website is just airtrafficcontrollermusic.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and follow that direction that Dave just gave you. Go to airtrafficcontrollermusic.com. Look up their music, look up their tour dates and everything that ATC has to offer. Again, from the sincerity of my heart, once you listen to them, you're going to be a brand new fan. And some of you already watching and listening, you're already a fan already. So collect their music because they're going to be coming out with more. And Dave, I want to thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had no idea what to expect, and you just made my day several times. Thank you,
Well,
Ward.
you've made my day because I've been listening to your album for half the day today. And again, ladies and gentlemen, check out the current album Dash by Air Traffic Controller. Again, a full collection of some of the most amazing songs you will ever hear. And not only that, they got incredible beats, incredible melodies, and your feet will start moving once you start to hear these songs, and it won't take you very long to start singing along with some of the greatest music you will ever hear in 2023. So again, Dave, thank you so much, and many blessings to you and the band.
Thank you, Ward. Take care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hey, as for the Ward Bond Show, I'll see you next time.